Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My camera is not where I wanted it to be. Wow, what a start. Hold on a second. That's much better. There you go. Let's try that again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hate Live podcast, the first podcast that I've actually done since the summer of 2017. So it's been several months since I had a chance to do one. As you know, I've been so busy recently covering all the new game releases that have been coming out nonstop since the summer. I literally haven't had time to sit down and really do much at all besides maybe cram in and Ask the King here or there or whatever. I haven't even done a formal game review or anything because I've been so crazy busy, all right? Today is Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen. Thanksgiving. Okay? If you're not aware, in the United States, this is a big national holiday, all right? This is a holiday where we all sit down with our families and friends to talk, to reminisce, to get caught up, and also to be thankful for all the things positive that we have in our lives, right? And I'm very, very happy and appreciative that here I am today able to sit down with you guys, my viewers, whether you're here live on stream right now on Twitch and you're watching this, immediately as I broadcast it, or whether you're watching it after the fact on YouTube. Either way, I'm incredibly appreciative that, number one, I'm able to share my thoughts, to share a fun podcast like this on a day like this, but also, oh my God, excuse me. Can you tell already I've started to drink some seltzer water today? But also the fact that people care. People care about my thoughts. People care about how I'm doing. People care about the videos and the streams that I do. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. 10 years making gameplay videos on YouTube. 10 years of my life, man. That's almost a third of my life that I've been doing this. That's crazy to think about it, right? And to think about what a wild journey it's been. Don't worry, next year, I'll be reminiscing a lot. I'm sure I'm going to have a special, anniversary style events and everything. But we'll get to that. But anyway, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here for the very special Hate Live Thanksgiving special podcast, all right? We have quite a lot to talk about today, all right? Just to give you a heads up, a quick summary of what we're going to be discussing on today's podcast. Number one, current events. There's been so much going on since the summer. The last time I had an opportunity to do a podcast, and I really haven't had an opportunity to talk about much of it at all because I've been so busy with all the new releases, streaming constantly. As I've mentioned previously, I've been so busy streaming, I needed to keep that busy because if I wasn't constantly streaming, all right, if I wasn't constantly streaming nonstop, I wouldn't have been able to pay my bills. It's that simple. This supplementary income I'm now getting from Twitch support, as you can see, people right now are cheering and subbing and everything as I do this podcast. That's the reason I'm still here. When YouTube fell through earlier this year, if I didn't get to keep constantly streaming and having that support, I wouldn't still be here. So thank you to everyone who's been very supportive. In fact, I'm going to do a bunch of shout outs in just a moment for everyone who's doing stuff. However, please, I want to say this. I got so much to do. Current events is the first segment of the show. All right. Then the second segment is going to be me going through all of the games that I've played since the summer and reviewing them. I'm not going to be giving review scores, but I'm going to be giving you my honest thoughts so that you know what I actually thought about these games that I played. That way, maybe right now, especially now, the Black Friday sales and everything going on. Gee, I wonder if did Phil really like this game or not? You're going to find out right here on the podcast. And then the final segment is going to be me talking about Thanksgiving, things, traditions of Thanksgiving, what it actually means, talking about myself, the status of myself in the business, and revealing finally that big looming thing that's been going on behind the scenes for months that's been worrying me, worried about if I'm going to lose my house and stuff. I'm going to reveal all of this on today's podcast. I have so much to talk about. I had to take massive notes. I've printed out here. I actually suspect this may be the longest and most important podcast I've ever done because of the importance of some of the topics and stuff we're going to be talking about. It's going to be pretty good, all right? But I will say this. Thank you to everyone who is doing supportive things. However, I will be doing shout-outs, but they're going to be between segments. So if I'm talking about a story, I'm not going to just drop the story to give a shout-out, all right? Please do not be cheering and asking constant questions because this is not Ask the King. This is not a show where constantly, I'm going to be answering your questions. So I do ask that please refrain on your questions. I know some people they like to cheer and ask stuff. This is not the show for that. That's Ask the King is next month. It's actually going to be a special holiday themed Ask the King around Christmas, okay? Fair enough? All right. Let's do some shout-outs, and then let's get started. So, shout-outs wise, first of all, Shout out to High Tech Specs who did 100-bit cheer. He says, happy Thanksgiving, Phil. Been busy and couldn't watch your streams recently, but glad to be here today. Thank you, High Tech Specs, for coming by, and thanks for your support. Shout out to Savage Beast 7097 who just resubscribed to the channel for the 8th month in a row. Thank you, Savage Beast, for the resub. Thank you to Black Mage C-Type who did 100-bit cheer. He says, happy Thanksgiving, Phil. Hope you got something good cooking in your oven for dinner. I got your stream playing in the background, and I'm interested in all the announcements you have to make. Thank you for the cheer, Black Mage. Wow. Wampayo. Wampa1. Here's Muxy, which is the program I use to see everyone's cheers and subs and tips. Doesn't capitalize any letters. So I'm sure this guy's name is probably Wampa and then capital O-N-E. But I don't see that. So Wampa1 did a 50-bit cheer. And he says, besides YouTube and streaming, what's your favorite job that you had? Honestly, I've had so many jobs. I've sold electronics. I've done business level IT style sales. I've done mortgages, loans, credit card sales. I worked for a major company of customer service for helicopter support. Honestly, this is really the only job I've had that I've enjoyed. I'm being real with you. Like, not to say that I don't like computers or whatever, but every time that you have to have one of those jobs, there's always the stuff you don't like. Like, sell the computer. I love selling a computer to a person and getting them the right computer they want. Oh, yeah, also selling this overly expensive replacement plan that isn't really a replacement plan and shove this down their throat. That's what I don't like. So, honestly, doing this is really the one thing that I've really enjoyed. I don't know if I can tell you. I loved doing another job. I don't think I ever have. Shout out to Buck Rogers, who subscribed to the channel. Thank you, Buck Rogers, for the sub. Jack Spartacus did 2 cheers. He did a 50-bit and then a 20-bit cheer. Thank you, Jack Spartacus, for the cheering. Nick Hurst did a 10-bit cheer. He says, are you telling us to save our money for next month? Also, I am from Saudi Arabia, and Thanksgiving is to celebrate Americans killing Indians. I have no idea what this guy's talking about in regards to saving money for next month. It sounds like a troll cheer. Whatever. Thank you to British Gaming Black did a 10-bit cheer. He said Thursday is Thursday. Okay. And Bob B-Boy Cyclone resubscribed to the channel for the 2nd month in a row. All right. There's your shout-outs. Let's get to the current event topics, folks. We've got so much to talk about on today's show. Seriously, we've got a ridiculous amount of stuff to talk about. Okay. All right. Let's get the stream chat back up here because I had it down so I could read all those. And Nick did a $1 tip. He says, you should do a 24-hour live stream speedrun of Final Fantasy IV for your anniversary. Final Fantasy IV is not 24 hours long. So I would be done in like 10 hours. I should think about it. I think the game's more like 12 hours. If you actually commit to it, you could beat it within like 12 to 15 hours without even grinding if you know what you're doing. So, and Nick Hurst did a 10-bit cheer. Okay, he says, he says, don't ask your stuff until next month. If you're going to cheer and just ask questions, save it. There you go. And thank you, that Anonabare also, he did a 50-bit cheer. He says, I missed the beginning of the stream, but hope your Thanksgiving is going well. It is. Thank you, that Anonabare. Thank you. All right, let's get to current events, ladies and gentlemen. All right, the first one I got to talk about is the biggest and most important. It's the one that everyone all over the internet is talking about. People have asked me, what are my thoughts? Why aren't I talking about it? It's because I knew I was going to be doing a big podcast today. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about net neutrality. We got to talk about how net neutrality in the United States, in particular, is currently at risk, okay? If you're outside of the United States, you may not even know what I'm talking about because it may not be a hot topic in your country, all right? If you live in certain countries, you may not have net neutrality, and you already know how horrible things can get if you don't have net neutrality in your country, all right? What is net neutrality? Net neutrality means that the internet itself, having internet service provided to you, is treated as a commodity. That means like something that's a common thing that everyone should have, like electricity, right? Without electricity, you're gonna have to live out in the woods somewhere and have a wood fire or whatever to keep alive. Everyone's basically saying now that the internet should be treated like a commodity, like electricity, meaning everyone should have free and equal access to it, okay? During the Obama administration, the 8 years that President Obama was in office, he put a lot of safeguards and different things and practices in place to protect net neutrality, to make sure that, at least in the United States of America, that the internet was going to be treated as equally usable by everyone, okay? That it would be a free and open internet, that there wasn't going to be any regulatory body or any corporation that was able to regulate your use of the internet and say you can only use the internet for this or that or this and that, okay? There's limitations and everything to that. Obviously, you can't use the internet for crimes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But the point is, right now in the United States, we have still right now a free and open internet. And what I mean by that is you pay for internet and that's it. You pay a rate for internet, and you could do with the internet whatever you want. You could go to websites, you can do social media, you can do text messaging or calls with your friends over the internet, like Skyping, stuff like that. You go to YouTube and watch streaming videos. You can go to Twitch TV and watch live streams like this. All of that is free and open. All right? So, what's happening right now, ladies and gentlemen, is the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, is a major regulatory body here in the United States. The head of this commission, who, by the way, he used to be a bigwig at Verizon. So tell me how someone who is now in charge of the biggest regulatory body of things like the internet used to be a bigwig at Verizon. How does that even make sense, and how is that legal? Isn't there a conflicting interest there? Of course there is. This guy has come out this week, and he's released his plan for a better and improved internet, which is hilarious because literally his plan makes the internet much worse, but he called it the opposite to try to pull the wool over the eyes of people who aren't smart enough to understand what he's actually proposing, okay? So what he's proposing is to completely remove net neutrality. He wants to completely remove any kind of protections or regulations for net neutrality, and what he wants to do is make it so that the internet is now an open body where any ISP, any internet provider can regulate what you're able to use your internet for and actually nickel and dime you for your use of the internet. As if internet wasn't expensive enough in America as it is in the United States. It's very expensive. In fact, most internet service providers now have put data caps on their internet where you can only go up to a certain amount of usage a month, and then you have to pay a ridiculous amount of overages and everything. Or you can get an unlimited plan for an exorbitant amount of money. For example, right now, okay, right now, I am under Comcast internet. Okay, I'm under Comcast internet. And Comcast has regular internet that has these data caps. But if I want unlimited, which is what I need, you need to get the business level internet. The business level internet at a minimum costs at least $100 a month. To get speeds that are doable enough for doing live streaming, I've got to pay about almost $200 a month for internet. Okay? For the unlimited. If I didn't have the unlimited plan, I'd probably be paying $500, $600 a month for internet with all the overages and everything for the amount that I live stream. It's ridiculous, right? So already, these companies hand over fist are raking in a ton of money on internet in the United States. In a lot of cases, it's a monopoly. For example, for me right now, to get internet fast enough to do live streaming, I have to be with Comcast. I looked into it. The only other internet, there's slow DSL and there's satellite internet, neither of which are fast enough to live stream. So I have to be with Comcast. I'm locked in with them no matter what. I absolutely have to use them if I want to do this for a living where I live, okay? So that being said, folks, already we have the situation in the United States. Now, the head of the FCC wants to remove net neutrality protections, all right? Now, you might say, but Phil, why is that a big deal? We didn't have net neutrality protections until 2015 anyway. That's correct. You absolutely are correct. However, this is what people don't realize. The major internet service providers in the United States have been under restrictions already to make sure that they cannot nickel and dime us if net neutrality was removed. All right. In fact, Comcast merged with, I think, was it Time Warner? They did a big merge a few years ago. Okay. No, it was NBC Universal, I believe. And now the terms of that merger was that there was a legal restriction put on them that they could not basically regulate the internet and charge people for different uses of internet. All right. However, that protection expires in 2018, which is why it was so important that we still had net neutrality in America, so that we didn't have that possibility of that happening where they could basically charge you for this and that and this and that. All right. So that's the big concern. If the head of the FCC removes the net neutrality restrictions, all right, and if these protections that we've had in place for major corporations like Comcast are removed in 2018, they could do whatever they want. And I'm going to give you an example because I have a couple examples here from a country, ladies and gentlemen. The country of Portugal does not have any net neutrality protections whatsoever. The country of Portugal also has some of the worst internet on the planet because the companies nickel and dime everyone and people hate it. I'm going to give you some examples. Here we go. I'm going to bring up some. Here's one. Potentially, this is what could happen to the internet if we lose net neutrality in the United States. What you're seeing here is an example of an actual internet service provider in Portugal. And what they do is they charge a flat rate fee just to have internet, Okay, so maybe it's like $30, $40 a month just for you to have the capability of having internet. All right, then what they do is they split it up dependent on what you actually use. So for example, if you want to use Skype messaging, if you want to text your friends on your phone, all right, they charge you an additional $5 a month. If you want to use social networks like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of the Pinterest, all right, another $5 a month. If you want to do streaming video, like you want to watch Netflix, you want to use Twitch TV to watch, to stream yourself or to watch people stream, you want to watch YouTube, $5 a month. Okay. Now, the other thing you're noticing here, if you haven't noticed, take a look at the top. 10 gigabytes a month. That's what they get. They get 10 gigs a month, and then they have to pay extra, all right? So, to be completely frank with you folks, if you lived in Portugal and you wanted to have all the internet that you have right now, if you live in the United States, you'd probably be paying, no lie, hundreds of dollars a month for the same internet that you get right now for way cheaper. I brought another example, okay? This is another company in Portugal, all right? $30 a month for DSL internet. If you're not aware, DSL internet is slow as shit. It's not even as good as most internet that people have these days, all right? $30 a month just for the DSL internet. And as you can see, includes 500 megabytes. Okay. Then, you want to use Google? You want to use Yahoo Search, right? You want to use any of the $5 a month. Oh, you want to do internet, anything outside of Portugal, international, like BBC or India, or $5 a month. Oh, you actually want to read the news? $5 a month. People are just looking at this, they're saying some stuff in the stream chat. Using Steam, $5. Right, everything here. See what I mean? This is what happens if you don't have net neutrality. Okay? This is exactly what could happen, all right? Now, that's how bad it can get, folks. That's how bad it can get. Obviously, I don't think it would ever be this bad. And the reason that I say that, I'm going to remove this now. The reason that I say that I don't think it would ever be that bad is because major corporations, let's say Netflix, it's the biggest video streaming service anywhere. TV, movies, everything. It's huge. It's a dynamo in the entertainment industry. Obviously, Netflix is going to find a way to get around a regulation like that. They're probably going to go in and say, oh, well, we're going to get buddy-buddy with Comcast. We're going to get buddy-buddy with Time Warner Cable. We're going to get buddy-buddy with Cablevision and all these corporations, right, who provide internet. And we're going to basically lobby to them and pay them money and have these behind-the-scenes agreements so that you don't nickel and dime the customers for that stuff, all right? Potentially, really the ramifications that we're going to see if we lose net neutrality is not that all of a sudden the internet's going to be nickel and dime for every single thing. What I showed you there was an over-exaggeration, all right? Really what would happen is you're going to stifle new stuff, all right? And I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example here. Right now, I'm using a program called PS View to get my television. I canceled my cable television completely with Comcast, and with my internet, because I'm already paying tons of money for business level internet, unlimited, I got a live streaming service called PS View, which allows me to get the same television channels that I had before, unlimited DVR, crazy good stuff, for $40 a month, when with Cablevision, with Comcast, I was paying $140 a month, okay? See how crazy it is? People are cutting the cable all over the place to save money because they have unlimited, unrestricted internet. Now, what's to say that Comcast now, if we lose net neutrality, takes a look and says, now, wait a minute, we're losing all these customers of our cable television because of these services. We're just going to block those services, or we're going to charge an exorbitant amount of money if people want to use that service. Oh, use PS View, $40 additional a month. We're going to charge you for internet, right? What's to stop them? Honestly, nothing. There would be no law against it. There'd be nothing to prevent an internet service provider from doing that. Not to say that they would definitely do it, but it's a possibility, right? Now, as I said, for established companies, Sony's huge. Sony would probably go and contact Comcast and take care of that behind the scenes, and it wouldn't be an issue. But what about newcomers? What about up-and-coming companies, right? What about someone who has some kind of new technology to bring you something, whether it's video streaming or whatever, and they want to do this on the internet, ISPs will now have the ability to prevent them from bringing that stuff to you or charge you an exorbitant amount of money to have that. What you're doing is you're giving overwhelming power to the company that brings you your internet service if you get rid of net neutrality, all right? It's not good. It's not good, folks, for anybody. This is bad. This is going to stifle creativity. This is going to stifle progress. This is going to create issues for a lot of people. I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be one of them because I live stream, right? I do all these things. Now, the thing is, I have business level internet. I'm already paying an exorbitant amount of money. I'm actually under the belief that since I pay so much more money than most people for internet, that this wouldn't happen to me. Like, I'd be just paying whatever I still pay for the internet because I'm already paying a ton. But what about my viewers? Now, if you want to watch me live on Twitch, you got to pay extra money a month, right? I mean, it could be. It could potentially happen. So, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, all right, at all with this internet issues, what's going on right now with net neutrality. What I can tell you right now is that ridiculous amounts of people on the internet are speaking out. People are writing to their congressmen, their senators, and everything. They're calling their offices. There's giant campaigns in the United States, protests scheduled and everything. And what's supposed to happen is there's supposed to be a determining vote on whether net neutrality will be held over or disbanded around the middle of December. This is a pretty big deal, folks. It really is. It's a huge deal. And I don't know. Honestly, myself, I'm nervous. Because I don't know what could happen. It could be horrible if we lose net neutrality. The bottom line is net neutrality doesn't hurt anyone. The only thing that it hurts is the ability of corporations to make more money on what they already do now and make an exorbitant amount of money doing. So, Mr. Head of the FCC who used to work for Verizon, gee, I wonder if he's in anyone's pockets, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't benefit anything. Literally, if you read his plan that he outlined this week, he doesn't actually potentially explain any positive benefits. He tries, but when you read it, you're like, this isn't a potential benefit at all. He's basically saying he's sugarcoating what he's saying to try to make it sound good, when in reality, the only people it benefits are the corporations that are already making tons of money. So, yeah, I just don't get it, man. I mean, I'm nervous, and everyone is. It's not just me. I mean, you've probably heard major streamers, YouTubers, anyone who does anything like this on the internet, incredibly nervous that this shit could ruin everything for everybody. We'll have to see. But hey, if you have the ability, if you live in the United States and you have the ability to tell another person about this issue and spread awareness of it, to call your senator, to call your to do whatever you can, do it. Because this is something that could change the face of the internet as we know it. And when you have a head of a regulatory body telling you the opposite, literally lying to you, stone-faced lying to the public, because he's trying to be what do they call, silver-tongued talker, right? Oh, I'm just going to say it one way, and hopefully you'll believe it, even though that's not the truth. And that's literally what's happening here. The guy's a liar. The guy's a fucking blatant liar and lying to everyone. But people are believing it because they don't know any better. And that's what we have to stop, okay? All right. I'm going to do some shout-outs here, folks. Real quick before we get to our next story. Let's see here. Nick Hurst did a 10-bit cheer. Thank you. That anonymous. Oh, no, I already read these. Hold on. Thank you, Atlas Telemon, for the 50-bit cheer. Nick Hurst did another 10-bit cheer. Nick did a $1 tip. He said, for a limited time, pay $6.99 for an exclusive loot box to get a chance to access a total of 3 websites. We're going to talk about loot boxes next, actually. That's the next story. Astro Jet Boy did a 10-bit cheer. All right. And he says that in Britain, unlimited internet is basically $50 a month, and they have net neutrality. Thank you, Tanner Mouter, for a 100-bit cheer. Thank you, Danny Hikari, for a 10-bit cheer. And he says, hashtag save free porn. That's another, they could literally say, we have detected that you access pornographic websites. We're going to charge you $20 a month now if you want to keep doing that, or we'll block those websites. I'm not even kidding. They could do that. There would be no law against it. And shout out to B-Boy Cyclone, who did an 18-bit cheer and said, hashtag thanks Trump. Trump didn't do this. The head of the FCC did. Okay. Okay. Let's get to our next story here, folks. Get everything set up here. All right. Number 2. Our second big story of this special Thanksgiving episode of the Hate Live podcast. Loot boxes in video games, ladies and gentlemen. Let's discuss this issue. First of all, what is a loot box? How does it work? Traditionally, what a loot box is in a video game, it's some kind of a randomized item, okay? Whether it's a collection of items that you'll receive or it's just one singular item, it could vary per game. But traditionally, a loot box is you don't know what you're getting. You have potential to get something great, or you might get something that's frivolous and a piece of crap, or you might get something you already have, all right? It's randomized, i.e., when you get a loot box in any game whatsoever, any video game, it's basically gambling because it's a game of chance. A game of chance where you don't know what you're going to get, okay? Now, traditionally, loot boxes have been a staple part of games that are considered free to play, meaning you didn't pay for the video game, you got it for free. One great example, games on your phone, right? Games on an iPhone, games on a Droid, games on anything, a tablet. Traditionally, these games are free. You don't pay for them up front. You're able to download them for free, play them for free, but the only real way to have major advancement or to get the best things in a game like that is to actually pay some kind of real-world money to get real currency in the game that you can then use to buy a randomized loot box, all right? It's a slippery slope. It's very dangerous because even though I do support the use of loot boxes in a game like that because the game was free, the game developer made this game for free, obviously they need to make up some money for making the game and they hope that the loot box system is going to be lucrative for them. Sadly, some people fall into a gambling addiction. They'll start playing a game where, oh man, I really need this hot new character that's being released today. And so I'm just going to keep clicking loot boxes constantly. Oh man, I didn't get the character yet. Dump more money into the game. Keep clicking the loot. I'm going to get it eventually if I keep going. And the bottom line is they may never get the character they're looking for or the item they're looking for because it's gambling. It's randomized. It's the same as you sitting at a casino at a slot machine, pulling the arm, because you don't know. You may win eventually if you keep playing. Statistically, you're going to win. But how much money are you going to spend by the time that you actually win on that slot machine, right? Now, I want you to think about this. Obviously, casinos and gambling wouldn't exist. These mobile games wouldn't exist if you got your item most of the time without spending an exorbitant amount of money. The reason that they exist is because the casino always wins. The house always wins. You know, yeah, every 1,000th person that plays that slot machine is going to win $1,000, but they probably made $400,000 in the process of giving out that $1,000 of people pulling that slot arm. That's how gambling works, folks. That's why it's profitable. So, the issue that we're facing, ladies and gentlemen, in the modern era of gaming of 2017, in particular this year, this fall gaming season, we've seen multiple high-profile AAA game releases that used the loot box system. The problem being, they weren't free-to-play games. These were games you paid to purchase up front. You paid the full retail price to buy the video game. Therefore, it's always been the understood contractual agreement between consumer and game developer, or publisher, I guess I should say in this case, because the publisher really sets the rules of what's going to be sold as their product. If you pay that money, you have gained license to play that video game and get all the content that's been created for that game, right? Now, recently, in recent years, we've had problems with DLCs. How many times do you buy a video game, and while you're buying the game, already there's a season pass available? What the fuck? Shouldn't that content have been in the game at start when you bought it, right? That's already been a slippery slope we've been going down over the past few years. And I think what game developers have realized is that the season pass DLC isn't really that lucrative anymore because people have realized, man, these season passes aren't that great. We buy them and there's like one piece of good stuff and 5 pieces of crap that's obviously rush tacked on crap for the fact that they could sell a season pass for 30 more bucks. This isn't worth it. And people stopped buying season passes. So now, in their ever oh so long search for another way to make an ongoing revenue stream for a video game, game developers and publishers have instituted these loot boxes in games you already paid for. I'll give you some examples. Middle-earth Shadow of War. Middle-earth Shadow of War is probably the gravest offender at this point. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, Middle-earth Shadow of War is a game that has 4 chapters. Actually, no. It's a game that has 3 chapters and a 4th artificial chapter that was literally tacked onto the game to sell loot boxes. You can beat the first 3 chapters of Shadow of War without ever spending any money on a loot box, with just playing the game normally, recruiting orcs to your armies, taking over bases, and literally when you complete chapter 3, you get a gold trophy and or a giant achievement, depending on what console you're playing on, stating you've beaten the game. That's the trophy for beating the game. You get it. But then there's a 4th act, like why? And the only way you can really beat it easily without grinding for 20, 30 hours is to spend more money to buy these loot boxes of orcs to recruit to your army so that your army's immediately more powerful and you could go take over the bases. By the way, if you complete Act 4, you get 1 cutscene, which is like 2 minutes long, and that's it. So literally 20 hours of grinding, or spend a ton of money on loot boxes to get a 2-minute cutscene. Do you see the problem with loot boxes? Okay, let's go to another game. Star Wars Battlefront 2. This game this week, my God, this last week, so much controversy. All right, why was there controversy? Because EA, the publisher, decided to institute this loot box practice in the game, where if you buy the game and you just play it, through in-game currency and in-game challenges and accomplishments that you do, you earn currency that you can unlock characters, and you also can unlock randomized pieces of equipment for each class of character in this multiplayer game. The problem being, the equipment actually makes your characters overpowered. Yes, if you get an epic piece of loot, your character will be dramatically better than a person who doesn't have that piece of loot, giving you an advantage in the online gameplay. Now, if this was just based off of, I earned it in-game for free, it would make sense. But they actually had a marketplace where you could buy these loot boxes, meaning these whales, which is, if you don't know, the term whale means it's someone who's rich or has a lot of disposable income. They come in and they just throw money at a game. Day one potentially could come in, throw $500 at Star Wars Battlefront 2 and unlock all the high-powered characters, unlock a bunch of epic equipment for their characters, and just jump in and dominate everyone because they unfairly got access to the most overpowered stuff in the game just by throwing money at it, okay? Now, what happened was after this became public knowledge when people were playing the beta a few months ago, and they were like, this isn't going to be a good practice if this is in the final game. This week, the week before the game officially released fully for retail, some people had early access to the game because they were other ways to spend more money. They spent $20 extra and got like 3 days early access, or some people were part of the EA Origins subscription program and they got early access. And the early access people literally reported, yeah, this is bad. Like, immediately, I can tell you, there's people here who are spending money. Within an hour, they've got Darth Vader, the most powerful character, for multiplayer, and this isn't fair. This is completely overpowered and broken, and it's not fair. It's an unbalanced game right now because people are just throwing money at it. So much backlash happened during launch week of Star Wars Battlefront 2 that EA and DICE, the game developer who made the game under EA, because they're owned by EA, had to come out and literally publicly apologize and say, since we scoofed up so bad, we're turning off the in-game purchases for now, to make it an even playing field for everyone at launch, okay? But the problem was the damage had already been done. So many thousands upon thousands of people had found out that this game was basically going to be based on a loot box system that people boycotted the game. Now, did the game sell poorly? I doubt it. It's Star Wars, and let's face it, there's a ridiculous amount of Star Wars fans. We've got a Star Wars movie coming out next month, so people are going to be buying the game next month as a tie-in for the movie and all of that. But that being said, I'm sure the game suffered some kind of sales dip because of this negative press and all the controversy surrounding the game. In fact, it was so bad that Wall Street actually contacted EA and said, should we be expecting your stock to plummet because this game doesn't sell? And EA was like, oh shit. And that's when they decided to make the decision to get rid of the paid-for loot boxes. Now, the problem is they said they might reinstitute it again in the future. Oh, it's probably going to come back, they said. So what's the point, right? It's so stupid. But here's the thing. Those are 2 incredibly high-profile AAA games that didn't need to. I mean, if those games were good enough, they would have sold millions and millions of copies, right? And it would have been profitable, all right? But what we're hearing more and more from game development studios is, oh, God, the cost of development and the amazing amount of personnel that we need to employ to make these games, it's just overwhelming, and we can't make enough money anymore. Bullshit. Here's the problem, folks. And this is what happens when you really get into an industry like video games as it's grown as it has. Back in the day, the 80s, the 90s, and even the 2000s to some extent, what you had were the cream of the crop making video games. The people who were the most talented would put the time and effort into making the best games on limited budgets. They would come out with these giant blockbusters and they would sell ridiculous amounts of copies, and these companies would become incredibly lucrative, right? Based off of the sales of these games. Now what's happened is every Joe Schmo on the planet realizes there's money in video games. So you get the less talented people who now come into the industry and want to make money doing it, and they're not as good. So they don't have the high levels of talent. They don't have the resources. They don't have the expertise to come out and make a game on a shoestring budget that's amazing, a AAA style release. They just don't do it. They can't do it anymore, all right? And sadly, that's what happens when you have an industry. Video games has become the biggest, most profitable industry on the planet. Bigger than movies, bigger than television, bigger than music. It's the biggest entertainment there is. So everyone wants to get in on it. You get all the dregs and the lower levels coming in too. And what's happened now is that we just don't have the resources. We don't have the talent anymore of these people. And what you get is, oh, we're going to make a AAA release. We need a team of 300 people. What? What the fuck did those 300 people do? You know, how many times do I beat a game and here come the credits for the game? It's like 1,000 fucking names. It's like, what the fuck? You couldn't tell me you couldn't cut 500 people from the staff of this game and make it? You know what I mean? If anything, it seems to me what's happening, especially with big AAA releases, is that it's becoming overbloated and it's not efficient anymore, right? Now, instead of having some efficiency experts, I used to actually have some expertise in this field, all right? I was trained as a competitive excellence, achieving competitive excellence, or ACE, continuous improvement person. What I would do at my former office job is I would go into a process that they had at this job, and I would look at that process from start to finish, and I would map out each step of the process, right? And I would say this process takes this amount of time, this step takes this amount of time, these are the people involved in each step. So for example, in development of a game, I would map out the process. Concept, right? Maybe concept art and original game design, raising the budget, funding, marketing. I would do every step of the process, map it out, and see where are the bottlenecks. What is the inefficient part of the process, right? That is not correct, that we need to improve to make more money and to save on the amount of time and money and resources we need to complete this project. That's what I would do. That was my job. And I actually had 2 major successful projects where we completely revamped stuff at the business I was working at. And they became incredibly more efficient because of that. Instead of doing shit like that, what the game development studios are saying as well, since it takes 500 people to make this game and $5 billion of investment, we have to make our money somewhere else. So therefore, we have to sell loot boxes in our games, right? We have to have season passes for a continuous revenue stream, so people are spending $120 instead of $60 for a retail game. That's not what you do, folks. That's not what you do. You look at yourself internally and you find out, why do you need so much time and money to make the game you do and improve your process, rather than doing what they're doing and trying to put all that burden on the consumer, right? The other thing is, how often now do we see game developers using the same coding, using the same engine? You know, everyone's borrowing from each other. Everyone's licensing engines and stuff. And what happens, honestly, I think that these game developers have become not necessarily lazy, but just less talented. They're not writing their own graphical engines anymore. They're not doing things that are groundbreaking. They're getting a concept of a game, and instead of saying, how is this game going to be amazing and a work of art that everyone's going to want to play, they're saying, how can this game be profitable? And then they just follow a formula, buy a graphics engine from this company or license music from this company and do this and that that's already been done by everyone else. And they slap all these things together to make a homogenized game rather than something that's original or different that everyone's going to buy and it's going to be a million seller. Why do you think we get games, okay? From these game studios. Cliffy B this year released a game called Lawbreakers. You would think from a guy who was behind the Gears of War franchise that he would be able to put out a game that's going to be amazing. The game was, no one played it. It completely died and fizzled. No one cared about it. Everyone who played it said, yeah, it's kind of a fast-paced, fun shooter, but it's not what anyone's looking for anymore. It really feels like a combination of other shooters put together, and no one cares about it. How many games do we play these day and age? No effort. I mean, I hate to say it, Destiny 2 is a case of it. There's no effort put into Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is Destiny 1 with minor improvements. It's the same exact enemies, the same concepts, the same gameplay. There's no effort put into it. But because they have a giant budget where they can advertise the game becomes a million seller. Do you see? It's the industry that's at fault here. It's not the consumer. It's not that we're not paying enough money for the games. The industry has become sick and bloated and is becoming worse and worse. And that's where we have loot boxes and AAA games. It's not because this game is so amazing that we needed to spend this much money and this many people. No, you didn't do an efficient job of making the game, and now you're trying to put the burden on us rather than cutting the fat from you and becoming better at what you do. Just because you saw dollar signs, you're trying to suck the money out of us. That's not the attitude to have, all right? Now, the real big news this week about this, okay, is that people have finally gotten wind that loot boxes in these games are bad, and they're basically gambling. It is. It's gambling. It's a game of chance. You're spending money for a chance to get something good, but you don't guarantee get anything good. You could get crap, okay? And it does lead to addictive practices. Man, I really need this one weapon. I really need this one character. I really need this one ability. I'm going to keep spending till I get it, right? That's bad. And some governments have begun investigating into loot boxes in video games. And in particular, this week it was the government of Belgium investigated this situation and said, yes, in fact, we are now considering the loot boxes in Star Wars Battlefront 2 as well as other major releases as gambling. Because if you can spend monetary money, money, denomination, currency, whatever, in your country and get a randomized item, no guarantee that it's the item that you want, that is gambling, period. And they said, what we're going to do now is we're going to try to reach other governments in Europe to create kind of a coalition group of people who are going to look to ban this from video games. This is huge news, because if this happens, that means the loot box practice will be completely removed from game. But the question now is, if this actually happens, what's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to mobile games? Because most mobile games follow this pattern. You get the game for free, and then you have a randomized loot box, right? I'm not even lying. I play 3 games right now that I play. Have this I play Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, WWE, I don't even remember what the fuck the name of the game is. Hold on. WWE Champions, and Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. All 3 of those games use the randomized loot box system. All of them. Now, there's one game that I play. It's called Marvel Future Fight that never adopted that practice. With that game, it's a standard currency system. Yes, you spend money, but you can literally use the money for in-game currency that you buy whatever you want from a store. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe what's going to happen is we're going to see all games are going to become that instead, where you just, no more randomized loot boxes. Instead, you just have to buy what you want. Okay? In which case, again, will that solve the problem of a whale came in on launch day and bought all the good stuff? No. But honestly, what it may do, number one, the game companies are going to make way less money because you're not going to have that addictive nature, people clicking to keep buying, to keep getting what they want. They're going to get it right away. And number two, you may potentially stop people from being harmed. You know, kids. How many kids are buying these games? And like, for example, a kid who played, now kids shouldn't be playing Shadow of War, because Shadow of War is a very gory game. But let's face it, I'm sure a ton of kids did. How many kids want to beat the game and can't finish Act 4? And now they got to beg their parents for more money to buy these loot boxes, or even worse, spend their own money to buy these loot boxes to get the orcs they need to raise the army to beat the game, right? Same thing with Star Wars Battlefront 2. If EA hadn't made the changes that they made on launch week, which made characters very easily unlockable, and the fact that you can't spend money to unlock characters anymore, what if they'd never done that? What if instead they had left the currency system in place and made it an incredible, impossible grind to unlock characters normally by just playing the game? How many kids would have bought the game and said, Mommy, I want Darth Vader, you know, and I can't get him. What do we do? And then the mom or the kid spends their own money to get those characters. I can understand. I understand why this is a big concern. So it's interesting. Now, outside of just Belgium, the state of Washington, I believe it was actually the governor of Washington, who's just a state in the United States, came out and he said, I am blatantly against this. I also believe it's gambling, and I'm going to work with other governments for states in the United States to come together and have our own kind of coalition where we're going to try to ban this practice in games in the United States. So it's not just Europe. In the United States, it's happening too. It's just that it literally just started happening in the past couple of days. And the question here is, what is really going to happen? Is there going to be a big shift where this will be banned? I don't know, but it's good. It's certainly news. It's notable. I don't agree with the loot box practice. I think it's fucking stupid. I mean, I'll be honest, even in the mobile games I play, I don't spend money on them anymore. I can't afford it. But, it sucks because let's say you want to be a free-to-play player. I can grind in one of these games for hours and hours and hours and earn enough currency to do maybe 5 random pulls. And you do them and you get shit. And it's like, man, now I feel like shit because I just spent all this time playing the game and it was a waste of my time. Versus some other Joe Splamoni. Oh, on the first click, I got every character I wanted because it was a randomized loot box. It's like, what the fuck is that, right? I don't know, man. So we'll see what happens. I'll follow this story and give you guys more updates and developments on it as it happens. But right now, it's an interesting developing story, right? Okay. I got some more shout-outs to do. However, I want to, again, remind everyone, if you are doing cheers today or tips, please do not ask me random questions. Because this is not Ask the King, and I need to get through the show and cover the topics, and I can't sit here answering random questions. So shout out to Babyman Gaming, who did a 20-bit cheer. Shout out to Baby Vampire Thug, who did a 20-bit cheer and asked me a random question that I can't answer. I'm sorry. I got to keep the show moving. Shout out to the Adam Lee, who did a 10-bit cheer. And he says, one example of loot boxes in games like Injustice 2, you could buy these crystals for costumes or premium skins in-game for your heroes and villains. There you go. And he did a 10-bit cheer. He says, all right, maybe not Injustice 2, but a game similar to it. Because in Injustice 2, I believe you can actually get what you want, right? You can actually pick what you want, and that's why it's not a loot box system, right? I could be totally wrong, but okay. Shout out to Roxas Incarnate, who just subbed to the channel. Thank you, Roxas, for the sub. And thank you to the Brickboy103, who just did a 10-bit cheer. Thank you, everyone, for your support. All right, let's continue on. I got one more current event story I want to cover. And then we can take a break and move on to the next segment, all right? The last current event story, folks, everyone's heard of this current event story by now. I mean, it's all over social media. It's all over television. It's all over the news. Ladies and gentlemen, the big sexual harassment scandal that exploded in Hollywood just a few weeks ago when it was revealed that very high-profile Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein had been a chronic sexual harasser. If not a rapist, he's been accused of both, okay, by, at this point, dozens of actresses and women who over the years apparently have had involvements in his projects, and this guy went ahead and used his power as a studio bigwig to basically get what he wanted from these women, whether it was, something gross like watching him masturbate or actually having full sexual intercourse with these women. It's pretty fucked up. And honestly, I mean, I'll be real here. It's not that it's like we didn't know it was happening. Anywhere where you have a position of power, and that power is such a position of power that it could make or break people's lives, okay? You see this kind of thing, all right? Anywhere. I mean, I'm just going to give a piece of perspective here, all right? A few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I'm not even sure at this point, there was this big story on the internet about Toby Turner or Tobuscus, a YouTuber who really was known for comedy, okay? Comedy songs, skits, and playing games, which is bullshit because he's not a gamer, but I'm not going to get into that. And the scandal broke that this guy was a chronic sexual predator, that this guy would get girls high or drunk, and he would then have his way with them, all right? He would abuse women, he would hit them, okay? And it wasn't just one girl that came out. There were multiple women who kind of came out and said, yeah, either it happened to us or we kind of knew that it was happening. This guy's just a fucking YouTuber. What power does Toby Turner on this planet really have? Not much. But it's the power of celebrity that really, gets this kind of stuff to happen. And it took so long. I mean, Toby Turner was on a big YouTuber for how many years before it finally became public knowledge that this is something that was going on and people started speaking out about it, right? Now imagine Hollywood, all right? Imagine Hollywood where, billion-dollar industry. You could have a career as an actress or a singer or whatever, and you got these big guys in power who they could make or break careers just on an audition, right? And they could be the deciding factor on whether you get that giant movie role that's your big break or whatever. And then, you know, you're being told you're going to get your big break. You're going to get this big leading woman role, and you're going to get your start in Hollywood. This is amazing. It's breaking your career. And they say, we got a big production meeting. Come to my hotel room tonight at 8 p.m. And we'll talk about the role and we'll talk about everything. And you go to the hotel room and the dude's fucking butt naked masturbating in front of you. What the fuck do you do? Right? What are you supposed to do? I mean, you could try to get out of there. In some cases, apparently, he blocked the door, right? But what do you do? Because if you say anything, does that mean now that's the end of your career? Are you going to get blacklisted from Hollywood? What's to stop a big Hollywood producer who does that to just immediately tell everyone, don't work with that person. That person's a troublemaker. That person's a diva. That person is hard to work with. You're not going to... I cast them and then nothing but problems. Blacklist that person. What's to stop them? There's no law against it, right? So that could happen. So that's what I mean. The whole industry, of the entertainment industry as a whole, I'm sure has these kind of problems. I mean, now here's the thing. It would have been one thing if this was just one story. Wow, there was one bad apple. And, you know, that one apple should not be held as representative of the bunch, right? Boy, how the floodgates have fucking opened since this story hit. Ladies and gentlemen, since this was like 3 weeks ago or a month ago, when this story first hit, there have been dozens, if not more, of major players in Hollywood and the entertainment industry that have been accused of chronic, not once or twice, but chronic sexual misconduct. In fact, the one big one that I think everyone made note of was Kevin Spacey, all right? Now, Kevin Spacey, for years it had been rumored that he was either bisexual or homosexual, but he never actually came out as that. He never really had... He basically kept his private life private. He didn't make that a part of his public persona. It was his body of work that was his public persona, and everything else was private. So all of a sudden, when the Harvey Weinstein story breaks, this guy who is currently acting in the new television show, Star Trek Discovery, comes out and says that when I was 14 years old and I was just getting into stage acting, I went to a party at Kevin Spacey's house, and Kevin Spacey was completely drunk, out of his mind. I was asleep in his bedroom because I didn't want to be with the people who were like getting drunk or whatever at the party. It was a really weird story to begin with, all right? But basically, these kids at Kevin Spacey's party, everyone leaves. Kevin Spacey gets shit-faced drunk, goes into the bedroom, and tries to sexually molest the kid and or have sex with the kid, who's an underage kid, okay? Says, I never told the story because I was afraid that if I did, that, you know, I would be blacklisted in the industry, and now here we are, and now I'm on a big major show, and I see the Harvey Weinstein scandal. I'm using this opportunity to speak out and say, you know, this is what happened. Kevin Spacey comes out and says, well, you know, I can't both deny or confirm that this happened because it was so long ago. It was in the 1980s, and I was obviously probably really drunk, so I wouldn't remember anyway. But just so everyone knows, I choose to live my life now as a gay man. And everyone kind of looked at his announcement and was like, what the fuck? Like, he literally turned a accusation of sexual misbehavior, even attempted rape, into I'm a coming out of the closet, I'm gay announcement, right? It was so odd. It was such a weird thing to read this, okay? Then we thought, okay, well, that's fine. We'll just forgive him, right? Then all of a sudden, his co-stars on his show House of Cards, this is one of the shows that made Netflix as big as it is. House of Cards, 5 seasons, season 6 already in production. You know, the show that put Netflix on the map, really, in a lot of ways. And proved that one of these on-demand networks instead of a major cable network could make a major show that would sell subscriptions or whatever. His co-stars come out and say, yeah, he does it to us too. Yeah, he's done it to us. You know, this isn't a one-off thing. It's known that this is what the guy does. He's a sexual molester. He tries to get his way with guys all the time. And it's not just, it's younger guys, older guys, it doesn't matter. He does it all the time. So, We went from one minor accusation of something that might have happened in the past, again, to a chronicled history of that this guy's a chronic sexual abuser. And then that was it. Once that was like the floodgates opened, and all of a sudden, all these people, men, women, started coming out and saying, yeah, it's happened to us. It's happened to us. And just to give you an example, this is just a single picture, folks, but take a look. All of these people who you see right now, okay, have either been accused or somehow involved in a sexual scandal right now. Unbelievable. I mean, what's this guy's name? Henry Tambor, whatever his name is. He's the guy who's the lead actor of the show Transparent. It's about being transsexual and coming out as a transsexual, having a family with transsexuality. And, for a lot of people, it was a really important series for people who feel that they have, they are transsexual or they have these feelings and they felt closeted their whole lives. And to see that there was a mainstream show come out covering important issues about transsexuality and stuff like that, right? And basically, people on that show were accusing him of being a sexual harasser. He's come out adamantly and said, no, this is ridiculous. I'm quitting the show because if people are really thinking that me making like a silly, comment about thinking that they're sexy or something is sexual harassment, I don't want to be a part of that show anymore. But this is pretty crazy. How many people, now this isn't even all of them. This is, like I said, this is basically the major people. George Takei, right? George Takei, who was a person who was very adamantly against these kind of issues. I mean, when it was coming out that people were involved in sexual harassment, George Takei was on social media speaking out verbally against it. Then he got accused of it. It's like, wow, holy shit, There's more. There's way more than this. But I'm just saying, all right, that this seems to be a rampant issue in Hollywood. Now, is it good that it's coming out right now? Absolutely. This kind of shit needs to come out. This kind of shit needs to be exposed for what it is, because this is absolutely unacceptable. We cannot have people in places of power doing horrendous things to people, all right? We can't. It's terrible. But at the same time, when you're looking at it, you're like, what took so long? At what point? Is it because now this is the era of social media and anyone could say anything on Twitter and get a voice, versus maybe back in the day, people were afraid that how would I get my voice out there, right? Maybe that's what it is now, because we have the internet, because everything is easily, able to be spread among the internet to everyone instantly, right? Versus back then, I mean, what would an actress do? Go on a talk show maybe and talk about it? Do a press conference? God forbid you do a press conference about being sexually harassed or raped, right? So I don't know, like, it's terrible, because you gotta hope, you gotta wish that maybe people now moving forward, this shit ain't gonna happen anymore, because now people realize if you do it, you're gonna immediately get called out and slammed for it. But at the same time, you gotta wonder, is there a systematic culture in Hollywood, and not just Hollywood? I'm sure, like I said, all major industries, it probably exists, all right? Is there a systematic culture where people in power have found a way to chronically do sexual abuse to people and be protected from any ramifications? Is there a subculture of people who think it's okay? This is just something that happens, and it's the good old boys and girls club, and we get away with it, and tough shit if you don't like it, if you want to be a part of Hollywood, if you want to be a part of the entertainment industry, if you want to be a part of any big industry, you just got to put up with being abused. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't take down these people. I mean, that's awful, man. Seriously, like, it's good to see it come out, but at the same time, human nature's fucked, man. Human nature's fucked up. That people innately, it seems like innately, inside of people, there is this desire to just control, hurt, take, you know what I mean? Just do what gives you pleasure and fuck everyone else. And that's terrible. That's such a terrible thing. But it seems to be something that's innate in human nature that's coming out now. People, oh my God, I never would have thought that this person, is a horrible person. The question here is, can we now destroy it? Can we now that this is all being exposed, can it be kind of broken down? And I hope, at least with all of this coming out, that's one of the things we get, is that we get a culture now where people can be safe, where people can actually be talented and go to work and be safe and not have to worry about this kind of shit going on. All right, everyone, that is it for the first segment of this very special Thanksgiving edition of Hate Live. Thank you. Current events are now over. What we're going to do is take a break. And if you're watching live on stream, I'm going to do a commercial break for about 15 minutes and run some music for you. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm just going to end the part. Part 2 of this podcast is going to be me reviewing all the games that I've played since the summer. I'm not exaggerating. I have them all, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on all the games that I've played since the summer of 2017, since I haven't had a chance to review any of them formally. Sound good? All right, everyone. So, thanks for watching. Time for a quick break. I'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks for all of your support. By the way, actually, hold on. Let me do a couple quick cheers and shout-outs. Hold on. Shout out to El Palacuis. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. Who did a 100-bit cheer. Shout out to Pips and Pops and Paps for a $2 tip. Thank you to that Anana Bear for a $10-bit cheer. Excuse me. He says, fuck that Star Trek Discovery's initials spell STD. Anyway, Hey Boss Posse did a 10-bit cheer. He said, Happy Thanksgiving Day, Phil. And Phil is my daddy did a 10-bit cheer. He says, hey, Phil, Happy Thanksgiving. Will the podcast be uploaded to YouTube later? Going to eat dinner? Yes. This is all being recorded to YouTube for YouTube and will be uploaded to the King of Hate vlogs after it ends, okay? Thanks, everyone. Time for a break. I'll be back in a few. Thanks for watching, and see ya at the other end of the break.